fight newspaper editors on this because we can't possibly rely on our parents and teachers to make education decisions. We need federal government bureaucrats. According to you'll see this a lot. I'm going to be taken on big time over this issue, but I think the best way to educate our children is by having a parent sitting home next to them at night helping them with their homework. And the best education. This is, to me, particularly important in New Jersey. As this country was founded on this fundamental belief, if you go back to the early days of our country, and you read the early textbooks and writings of early Americans, they believed and they wrote and they said that understanding of democracy and understanding of liberty and the threat of tyranny was taught in the nursery. Not in grammar school, but began in the nursery. They had fought so hard to free themselves from being under the thumb of the British Crown and their control and their intrusion into their privacy that they understood that children had to learn from early on how important individual liberty was. We've forgotten that core principle. We need to return to that. Particularly, and I said in New Jersey, where so many of these small towns, most of them, the majority of small towns and villages, from Bogota to Haddonfield, were established for a primary purpose. And that's because the early New Jersey residents wanted to control their children's education. They had a real vested interest, moral interest in what their children were learning. And that's why so many towns were chartered in New Jersey. And the best example I can give you of that, because this really goes to the core of liberty, is the borough of Bogota, my hometown. 5/8 of a square mile, much like many of the small towns you have in Camden County, we're very much the same. That was chartered in 1893. When the Dutch farmers in Bogota did not want their kids going to school in Hackensack, big city slickers teaching their kids, they wanted to teach them themselves and the things that they believed in. So they went down to Trenton, and I would imagine it was on a horse-drawn wagon or something. It was 1893, and they chartered a town in the State House. And it was probably easier to charter a town than it is to register your car today. And they chartered a town. They then went back, and now let's think about this. You're driving around in horse-drawn wagons, you're heating your house with split logs, you're raising your own crops, there's little or no medicine, as we know. It's a rugged way to live. Rugged by our standards, although I imagine those guys didn't think so. They probably thought they were state-of-the-art, but it was rugged. And yet they had the guts and the courage and the tenacity to say, we want to educate our children, let's make our own town. That's what they did. And then we had a big battle in Bogota over whether or not to spend, in 1895, a remarkable sum of $5,000 to build the town's first four-room school building. Well, voters voted to do that. The town built it with no state money, no federal aid. And we got our money's worth out of that building because it's our municipal building today. We have upgraded it since then, but we actually have electric lights. But here's my point, and I think you see it. This is the core of American values. The willingness of parents to work as hard as they can under the toughest of conditions for a better future